Hi everybody, Dhaman Mehta here, and thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. Got another 7 stories for you, so let's just dive in, starting with To Love Ruto by Drake Wilson. This is a Naruto and To Love Ru crossover. To Love Ru is an anime that I never saw. Based on this and other things, I know it's a harem anime where there's a lot of stripping and a lot of naked. Basically, they're naked a lot of the time. Here, Naruto exists as another person, like next to the main character. He's not replacing the main character fully, but he exists as like another person at school. But then essentially takes over the main character's spot, like getting introduced to Lala and all that stuff, and like is becomes a de facto main character, whereas the previous main character gets pushed to the sideline with the girl that he was initially going for anyway. And then there's also some changes with some of the aliens that come after Lala in the first place being more Naruto focused, or like being Naruto characters rethemed to fit the new world. Um, so I never saw the original show, but I found this to be very entertaining. The sexual humor is definitely turned up to 11, and if you don't like those kind of jokes, or especially like things of that are obviously meant to be in humor, but like of older women going after teenagers, like that is a thing that is here. With one of them being his stepmother. So yeah, I mean that's a thing when you go for like harem animes, like that's kind of a thing. But if you don't like it, that's there. Many of the characters are like so horny, it's just ridiculous, like over the top. And there's also a lot here, but I actually preferred it more as like a casual read, where like there are some stories where I will like want to like just keep reading over, like nonstop, continue. This one is probably more that I would like to like just have and then occasionally read like a chapter or two at a time, and then like just like have fun with it and then come back to it and again. But I really did enjoy this absurd humor. It's gonna stay on my list. Number two is Fate's Gamble Round 2 by Lupine Horror. This is a sequel to Fate's Gamble, which was a Harry Potter and Fate Stay Night crossover where Harry gets adopted by the Gorgon sisters and eventually gets like adopted by like Zeltrek and like all the big bads and like the big powerful vampires of the Nasuverse. Here it's after that story, which deals with their Voldemort and stuff, and then Harry gets summoned to another universe where they're like, "Oh, our Harry's dead, and we need somebody to kill Voldemort. Let's summon somebody." Um, so this was a much more tolerable read than the other story because I wasn't forced to sit through about a 10k word exposition dump every time Harry learns a new skill. So I mean, not to say that doesn't happen. That does happen. Like literally, like as I was reading this, I had that thought, and then an exposition drop for a new skill just came. But it's not like every chapter has like 2 or 3 of them in there, like the original did. This is a much more casual, like OP Harry stomps, Voldemort and stuff fic, with a tangent into the Fourth Holy Grail War for added flavor. And it even gets the bonus where the people, who summon Harry aren't just complete dicks the entire time, and some of them actually become tolerable. And it makes the world outside of this oversized cast Harry brings with him, because Harry, as he already has history with the kaleidoscope, he can travel dimensions and he brings other people with him. Lots of people. Like I think he comes with like 7 people, and then Harry himself, based on from the previous story, is a cast of characters on his own. And I think it's fine, but there's a lot of context that you're missing if you did not read the first one. And I basically, when I was doing the reread, gave up on the first one. I just got so tired of it that I didn't want to finish it. And a lot of these characters I did not remember because they showed up after I stopped reading, and also like they're not introduced to you because like they're like, oh, you read the first one, you know who these people are, so we're just gonna go. It's no reintroductions or anything like that, so you just got to know. Um, you think it'd be okay, but it's like, yeah, like I said, like everybody get lots of people get dragged, tons of them being OCs. There's a lot of guesswork dealing with their relationships if you didn't read. Um, it's still straightforward enough that if you don't mind missing the context, and some people are just like, they're there, I don't know who they are, but whatever. You just want a simple OP, crush stomp fic, you can do it, but it's also real kind of boring because it's like a lot of waiting. Like most of it is actually just waiting around with like casual conversation. I don't think it's that great. I'm just not going to come back to this. It's going to fall off my list. Next is For Want of a Family by Wizard's Girl. This is a Harry Potter and Percy Jackson crossover where Harry in second year basically gets abandoned by everyone, Hermione and Ron included, and starts crying, and then his mother, who apparently is Hestia, shows up and takes him to Camp Half-Blood, where he just ends up befriending everybody. So this Harry here is just like a sweet, precious cinnamon roll that just wants everybody to be happy. He gets to camp and is immediately like, oh, there's all these Olympians, but hey, Hades doesn't have a cabin. We should make him a cabin, and I'd be nice and like do this, and like, hey, Professor Mr. D, I want to help you out and like clean up your office. Can I do that? And just everybody just loves him. And that's like fine. It zooms past year 2, goes to the camp, then comes back for year 3, and that handles that in about like 5 scenes. Okay, and then we get to the start of the first Percy Jackson book before it ends. There's not much story here, and the slice of life stuff just isn't entertaining enough on its own to recommend, so this is going to fall off my list. Next is Ranma of the Shield by Fanboy913. This is a Ranma 1/2 and Rising of the Shield Hero crossover where Ranma gets summoned as the Shield Hero. And that actually removes a lot of animosity and aggravation I have towards a lot of Shield Hero fics, because Ranma don't take no shit. And so a lot of the early, like, and especially the things that you'll see constantly in fics, because they always start, the Shield Hero fics like that I read always start at the beginning, which is where he gets all the ostracization, the fake rape accusations, all this shit, and all this stuff thrown at him. Ranma just doesn't take, walks away, and handles this thing no problem. So he walks away from like most of the drama. Like, it's great, and we can just ignore those scenes and the many indignities that get thrown his way. Love it. His harem aura is also as strong as ever, and quickly, like, Raftalia, of course, becomes in loving with him. The monsters that he spawns also become like girls that they like, and he also gets somebody else that was there before this author stopped updating. And it's also interesting because he actually builds them up, and like they actually, because they're not constantly attacking him or just throttling him for no reason, they can actually build a relationship because they just blow past all his issues with violence, and they actually can talk. It's the only odd thing about this story is that even though there's 100k words, and it actually, like, plot timeline wise goes pretty far, goes past like 2 of the waves, I believe, and stuff, and gets them on their way to Siltwelt, like to leaving the country and stuff. It also feels like nothing really happens. It's just, I think it's more that it's a lot of small things and a lot more character drama because Ranma can ignore the other stuff, but the overarching plot kind of feels like it's going nowhere until like right at the end, where it's like, okay, maybe the queen is going to come in or something like that. But it's like we get very little interaction with the other 3, aside from just the annoying beats that are there, but like breeze through in this one. And I can see that being a point of frustration that it doesn't move forward. But I really just like hanging out with Ranma and his party, and just found it a lot of fun. And the fact that this is a Shield Hero story that's just not wallowing in the trauma that gets heaped on the Shield Hero all the time made me enjoy this fic probably more than most Shield Hero fics. So it's gonna stay on my list. Number 5 is Unseen Deductions by Mrs. Insane One. And this is a Harry and Sherlock Holmes crossover. More Sherlock, the BBC TV show. And this is where Harry gets blinded as a kid. And then, so because of that, learns to use his magic to like echolocate and basically see around the town. And then a couple years later ends up in with a murder happening next door, which brings Sherlock into his life. So about the first like 2/3 of this story is basically around that first meeting with Harry and Sherlock and that first case, and that's enjoyable. I really like that part of the story. It's as a hurt Harry who's also got his own traumas from other things, and it's just the Sherlock, Watson, and Mycroft and Lestrade all like trying to take care of him, and it's a like essentially a quick like hurt comfort fic right there. And then the latter third jumps forward to we get like two in between chapters where it jumps forward like a couple years, and then we get to the Triwizard Tournament where Harry gets dragged in because of course he does, which doesn't get finished before the updates to the story stopped. It's fine overall. Harry shows off a nice bit of wit and manner similar to Sherlock and Mycroft, and Mycroft actually comes off as parental to a degree that I didn't that I enjoyed, but I also didn't really love anything here. Like that first part, that Hurt Comfort Fic, is probably my favorite part of it, but it's also not something that I would definitely like go back and look for and like want to reread as a must see. If I stumbled across this fic and just came across it, I would read it, I would follow it and watch its updates and stuff, but this is not something I would look for again and again. So I recommend it as a read to give it a look, but it's not going to stay on my list. Number 6 is Little Angel Thesis by Lucky Chaos, and this is a Evangelion fic where after angels die, turns out they come back as chibi ghosts that haunt their killers, essentially. So for how little there is of this, it's only 5 chapters, gets to just after the 4th angel fight. I still I love this idea, love the execution, and love what was here. Like, even though we get just a little bit into the aftermath of the 4th angel, her ghost shows up and has enough time and like enough stuff to build enough of a character that she feels fleshed out, and Sachiel, the 3rd angel, is already there and built up way more. Like, they both feel like fully fleshed out characters, not just like as a single gag thing. And Shinji dealing with them and actually having friends and stuff, like they quickly form like Sachiel and him quickly get like a bromance going. I really enjoyed it, and like and the fact that nobody else can see them makes for like really fun moments. It's annoying that it ended right on a big like cliffhanger reveal that would have added like a complication where Rei can start seeing them now too. But even regardless of that, what is here, just this bromance between mainly Sachiel and Shinji, is just really, really fun, and I enjoyed it a lot and would not mind coming back to this. It's going to stay on my list. Alright, and the last one for this video is One Moment by Espion Master Espio. This is a Harry Potter and My Little Pony crossover, where Harry, after fighting Quirrell for the stone, goes to Equestria for like a week, somehow soul bonds with like 5 ponies, and then gets dragged back to Earth to deal with Canon, and then after Canon's done, takes Hermione with him to go back to Equestria. When he gets back, he gets to like the start of the 2010s series with like the Nightmare Night and such with Nightmare Moon, and something happens which causes like a nice bit of threads to go, but the story doesn't progress enough that the threads get any real payoffs. And aside from that, the most of it is just world building and little bits of like history of what happened to the other ponies that bonded with Harry beforehand, because we get like tragic backstories for all of them now. But also like nothing really seems, it doesn't really have much happening here. I didn't really get interested in it. I don't see a reason to revisit the story. It's going to fall off my list. So there we have it. Another 7 stories here. So fan fiction status time. I've now read 1,085 stories, and 510 of them have managed to stay on my list. So thank you so much for watching. As always, I will leave links to all the stories in the description down below of the video, and also links to my profile and a thread where I post all these in pure written form. So if you want to give those a look, feel free to check them out. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Take care.